All right, well, I can't see everybody, but I believe people are signing on, so I wanted to welcome everyone. We're going to give it a couple minutes for people to join, and you are welcome to introduce yourself in the chat. And I'm going to be a broken record and keep saying that over and over again for a couple minutes.
Isabel from
Hey, Isabel.
Here.
Nice. You're the first. Well done. I was just in Boston not that long ago.
I love it when people put their LinkedIn in there, if people can connect with each other. I think
Oh, that's smart.
really
That's
powerful.
smart. Hey, oh, London, nice.
Wow.
London, Istanbul, wow.
Wow.
We are international. Ah, London is one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to. I love London. Nice. Ah, hello from San Francisco. Hello back. I'm from San Francisco too. This is great. I like it. Just welcoming everybody. We're going to give it a minute or two for people to sign up, and you're welcome to introduce yourself in the chat. And Julie just had this good idea to put your LinkedIn, so welcome to do that. Wells Fargo, hey, I bet we know some folks in common. Zena. Nice. Good, good, good. Wow, international.
Very cool.
That's great. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Bulgaria.
Wow. So far, we have more people internationally than nationally.
Well, I
Great.
also think it speaks to the fact that the topic has global import.
There you go.
Yes.
That's right. Hello back, New York.
Morristown, New Jersey. Yay.
Nice. That's great. Excellent. Yes, Stanford. Okay. So for those who haven't heard, welcome. We're just giving a couple minutes, and you're welcome to introduce yourself in the chat. We're international. Balmy MPLS. I don't know what that is. MPLS. Jean?
It's balmy. Maybe the weather's balmy.
Oh, the weather's balmy, but what's Minneapolis? All right.
Minneapolis. Ah.
Balmy, that's right. I was in Chicago last week when it went from 30 to 70. Quite nice. Hello, Idaho. Nice. This is great. Nice. Phoenix, very good. Julie has put her LinkedIn. Excellent.
Oh, Julie, you're a step
Wow.
ahead of all of us.
Wow. What a great, how wonderful. This is an
Uganda.
international topic of interest. Excellent. Love it. Hello, Kathleen. Nice. So for those joining, I'm waiting for the signal to start, but you're welcome to put your introduction in the chat. We're letting folks get on board first. Nice. Los Angeles. Hello, LA. That's great. Brooklyn.
Oh my
Lived in
goodness.
Carroll Gardens for a while.
Yes.
More Boston, yes. Long Island.
Island.
Shout out.
Shout out to Lisa Coletti, Long Island.
Excellent. Okay. Yes, I'm getting a good reminder. As we get rolling, you can post questions in the question box, but I'm still waiting, Mahim. I'm waiting for Mahim's advice, our wonderful. There we go. You can get started. All right. I'm turning off the chat, so I'm not distracted, but that was amazing. We are international. Wow, that is incredible. All right. So welcome, welcome. We are very excited to this webinar about business women and wealth. It's co-sponsored by the Women Business Collaborative and Aspirant. I'm one of the several co-founders of the WBC and chair of strategy. And I'm sure most of you know, but our very succinct mission is equal position, pay, and power for all business women. and what a connection that is to wealth. Because we all know we have generations and even centuries of issues with pay. So that is an interwoven in all of our histories as we manage our own wealth. What we'd like to do today is take what I call a strategic pause. Take a breath, kind of create a sacred space, even though we're international and a pretty nice group, and have this conversation that boils down really honestly to our life dreams. It boils down to our legacy, to what do we want to leave behind, and how we think about money and wealth, because that is deeply interwoven with our legacy. Harvard and McKinsey has come out with these studies recently on women leadership. Well, actually on leadership. The leadership competencies now in the current business landscape are lead with empathy, empower others, put people before yourselves. Of course, this all ties back to exactly the way women have always led. But if you think about those core competencies, it's a lot of giving. And it's not necessarily that pause to take care of ourselves. And I'm going to generalize a little bit, but in general, men were taught, they were socialized to be the breadwinner, to care for themselves and the family. And I know in my generation, we were not socialized to do that. And I'm slightly dismayed at the rising gen. They're also kind of still trying to catch up. So that is the purpose of today's webinar. And we're hoping to leave you with 3 core things, which is confidence, the confidence to step up, to pause, to think about what you want out of life, to make it as clear as you make your business plans. Most of the folks on this call are business women. We know how to make business plans, but we don't do the same thing for ourselves. So the confidence to do that. Community. My God, we have an international community right here. It's amazing. Our firm, Aspirant, has a community of women clients. WBC is a community of business organizations and millions of women across the business transom working together to accelerate results. And the third thing we'd like to leave you with is choice. That you have a moment in time, and that moment is now, to make that choice for yourself, to pause and say, let me focus on myself, because it has such a deeper meaning. When you do that pause and you figure out what it is you want to build, that creates what I like to call concentric rings of positive impact. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And we're going to do a lightning round of introductions and then get rolling, so we have time for questions. So again, my name is Lynn Bourne. I'm also, again, I'm on the board of WBC, but I'm also the Chief Practice Officer for Aspirant. And we are a leading wealth management firm with a national presence. And as I mentioned, many types of clients, but we also have a very large community of business women as clients. And my wonderful partner and compatriot, Helen, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Lynn. Helen Dietz. I'm the Managing Director of the Total Wealth Management for Aspirant on the West Coast, and an advocate for women and mentoring, and happy to be here. Thank you.
Excellent.
I'll hand the baton over to Julie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Castro-Abrams. I'm the CEO of a network called How Women Lead, and it's really designed to take advantage of this moment in time. We have the first generation of us, women with 30 years of work experience, some power, influence, and wealth, more than we've ever had before. 30 years ago, we didn't have this large generation of us. So we all come together and say, what are we going to do to break those glass ceilings and support each other? And so that's really my focus. And we've done things like we built a venture firm called How Women Invest, and we invest in companies founded by women. Probably, as far as we know, we're the only firm in the United States that exclusively funds companies founded by women. And so this topic today is exactly my business. This is what I do all day, every day. And I'm excited to welcome all of you in. Nobody pays anything to be part of our network. They just pay to go to stuff, $50 to attend stuff. So you're all welcome. And I look forward to seeing all of you in the boardroom and as investors.
Nice, beautiful. And Janet.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to have been invited here today. So my name's Janet Gregory, and I think I was invited, if I'm guessing, because I authored a book, the age of freedom, women at the crossroads of career and change. And a lot of it started with my own question: how do I go from being a hard charging professional woman? What's next? And it was an amazing discovery. I'll talk just a little bit more about that. That's not really our core topic today, but I will share some other key things that Lynn was touching on that importance of confidence and community that are part of all of our career and life changes. But for me, from a business standpoint, 25 years, corporate America, plus two of the companies were startups, which were successful. And then I also had 20 years of a very successful consulting career. So that's me.
Nice, thank you. All right, so I'm going to dive in. Just a reminder, put your questions in the question box. And also I wanted to make it clear that a gift coming to you from Aspirant and co-sponsored by WBC, Aspirant is offering complimentary wealth management conversations with one of our wealth managers. So when you get your thank you email from attending, you're welcome to sign up for that. So just wanted to get that on the table early on in the call. Okay, Helen, let's start with you. When talking to clients, you have this wonderful expression I love: you are your best investment. So not only do we need that personal plan, just like we have our business plans, but we need to nurture our personal plans. Can you describe how you work with women clients? What are the important elements of our life and our financial plans? And what should one look for when looking for a financial advisor? And feel free to weigh in on any trends or differences you see working with women. I know that was a bunch of questions.
Wow, okay. So let me just step back on that. Yeah, when I say you're your own best investment, I truly mean that when I'm talking to men or women, but women in particular. We go to school, everyone here you've probably been to 4 years of college, you might have your master's, your PhD, etc. And we think that's it, that's the end. And that really isn't. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of your career, your family, your life, your professional passion. And so, what I like to communicate is that as you start your career, you really need to be present to what that career can do with you and for you, and how you nurture that. And part of that comes into planning. So we planned 4 years of college, our master's degree, our PhD, but we kind of get caught up in our life rather than planning our life. And as Lynn mentioned, one of the most important things that hopefully will come out of this 30-40 minutes will be choice. So what I advocate for women to do is to set a plan. Like, what you're earning, what your career trajectory could be. What is the 1 to 3 year plan that you're looking to get out of your career where you are now? What is your salaries? What are your stock options if you have that? If you don't have that, how do you nurture your career, be present in your career to get yourself to the next rung? And I know that as we go through our careers, we're starting our families, maybe we're married, maybe we're not, maybe we're single, and we get caught up in that moment. And sometimes we say to each other, time out. It's really not time out, it's time in for you to focus on what you want, and just being focused to that, to those moments. I also find that we're disciplined in our work, but maybe we're not disciplined in ourselves. And once you get the discipline of your own mind and your focus on your plan, then when we have events such as, inflation, stock market declines, layoffs, if you can go back to that original grounding of a plan, you have the tools to make choices. And we won't have to be so reactive to changes in our family life, in our marriage life, in our career. So that's probably a lot and that I've said there. As far as choosing an advisor, like our industry is just filled with different titles for different people. So you have brokerage firms, and the brokerage firms typically are organized around businesses where there's product and there's commissions and there's charges. And then you have in our industry, the registered investment advisory industry, where you have fiduciaries, people that actually get compensated by you, the client, to give unbiased advice that is in your best interest. And we have a pamphlet here of how to help you choose between what advisor you should be looking for, what type of firm makes the most sense for you. And part of that is finding someone that isn't just going to tell you what to do, but help you learn and discover what you want to do. And I think part of that is who can be your advocate, who gets you, who gets your situation, who's relatable, because everyone can be an expertise with the letters behind their name, but who actually gets your value system, and how can your money express your value system, over the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, etc. So I'm going to leave it at that. There's much more to say, but that investment in yourself goes beyond your education. It's in your planning.
So I'm going to, of course, throw everybody curveballs because that's what I do. So like a couple of specifics, like, do you find, are women coming to you and saying, I want to retire when I'm 50. I care about my disabled child. I want to fund fill in the blanks, or I want to make sure I've left money for 2, 3, 4 generations, or like, what kinds of things are you finding that your women clients, probably business women, really care about?
Yeah, I think, and I see one of a very special person in this panel, but it's like I need a guide. Like, I have all this stuff, I have these issues, and really, it's like, can you help me make sense of this? Can you help me have a conversation to help me draw out the plan? Usually clients, women clients, they're not coming to us with a plan. They're saying, I have stuff and I know I want to get there or somewhere different. Help me set the bumpers, help me guide my way so I can sort of vet my own thought process and bring clarity to my own process. So maybe people, they may come as saying, oh, we want to start a family. That might be a question. How, what should we be doing? How should we be talking to our potential partner? Or I want to speak to my husband about retirement planning. How do you bring those, the aspects of the two people that maybe have had different backgrounds in money together in a plan? I mean, I do find that as well, is that a lot of times the woman wants to lead the conversation, but that you may or may not have the tools and have the knowledge of how to initiate the conversation, and then how to bring your partner in along with you on this journey. It was really interesting. I mean, I'm going to mention my daughter. She has a partner, but they're speaking about money even before there's any type of connection there. And I find that very healthy to talk about these issues, before getting into any type of permanent relationship. And what we also find is that when clients come to us after 10 or 20 years of marriage, they may never have had this conversation.
Wow. We have for those who are interested, on Aspirant's website, we have podcasts called Money Tales. And I strongly recommend, if you've never done this, tell your life story to a family member or a friend, but it's the life story of your relationship to money. Wow, that surfaces so many interesting, in my case, insecurities and confidence and I I mean, I didn't write a check till I was 20. My father taught me. I still know what bank it was at Manhattan at Sheridan Square, I mean, it's kind of nuts. So when I think about my thread with money, it's a really great exercise to do. And these podcasts are people discussing their relationship to money, which is a
Lynn,
very emotional relationship. Go ahead.
I'm
Jen.
glad you brought that up. They are fabulous. I've listened to many of them. And to your point, Lynn, the earlier that people connect with that, it's better because they can fill in gaps where there might be holes, as well as build on their strengths.
Yeah, nice. Well, speaking of that, Janet, so you and I had a nice conversation about how life is not linear, how there's like an
Okay,
ebb
well,
and
wait a
flow.
minute.
Oh, yeah?
You can't jump off and talk to me yet.
Okay,
I have a story I want to share. Can I
Please.
do that?
please.
Okay, because your question to Helen was about, one of the aspects of your question was about connecting with an advisor. And I want to tell you my personal story because I
Okay,
actually think it's a little bit interesting. So I felt like I had good grounding in money, but when I was at my first startup and realized I made these enormous mistakes,
Mm,
I was looking at money not just as a tool, because of the stock options in this company I helped to build. I got emotionally involved in it. And guess what? I watched that money go from, oh my gosh, I'm on Easy Street, to that'll be a good bonus, to, oh, I could get a coffee with a latte this time. And so I watched it go like this. So here's the thing, connecting with a good advisor. One, reputation and recommendations. So I was recommended by someone who was using this advisor. Great reputation, it was wonderful. But that's not all. When people want to get with an advisor, it's a little like dating. You want to connect on multiple levels. Someone you like, someone you respect, someone you trust, someone you actually want to and can carry on an open conversation with. And I just want to throw in one more point in my story. I'm sorry, I'm talking a little too long.
no, this is wonderful. Thank you.
But the other thing that's important is you need to also recognize that you can and should change it up when you need to.
Okay,
You yourself are changing and growing, and so is your advisor. So our particular case was my husband and I, we started with one advisor. She was awesome. We had a great connection. And in some ways, we kind of grew up together. I went on to my next startup. We had different paths. She's in the financial world and I'm in the high-tech startup world. Well, her career was changing, as was mine. She took over managing the firm that she was working with, and her financial sophistication went through the roof. Well, my financial sophistication, I don't think I'd use the word sophistication next to it. But also my husband and I found our careers winding down. I'm now going in a different trajectory than where my advisor was going. We actually agreed together that it was time for a switch. And I even switched within the same firm. We're all still great friends, and it was the perfect situation for all of us. So I guess I'm woven in all of that. I'm saying, find an advisor. It's like dating. It's okay to change it up sometimes, but how critical that advisor and mentor is, I mean, in all stages of our life. And anyway, don't go alone. So
okay. Do you want to talk about the stages of life, which is your book, and kind of elaborating on that intersection between financial lives and what you've found, and the impact with women as they sort of move through those different life cycles?
So you're going to let me hog the mic is what you're telling me.
Well, yeah, and then I want to hear from Julie about investing. Yes.
Well, but I don't know, Julie, do you have anything to add before I just go? and try to grab all that stuff that
Go
Lynn
for it.
threw
The
at
only
me?
thing I would say is we don't realize there's a life stage called middlescence from 45 to 65 until you hit it. And then you're like, wait, is it just me? And so there's a lot of things that are kind of interesting that happen in that stage. We're happy if we're doing things with other women and we're having an impact for one.
Right.
And if you're an outlier, a lot of us realize we actually don't have our people around us, which is kind of interesting.
Right.
But we also start thinking differently about money and power and influence. So.
Do you think that's kind of related to being a professional businesswoman, and you've kind of reached a certain stage of your career where you can, those
I
things
think there's a
become
different
more,
set of issues that happen for women who are in professional careers. I mean, when my daughter was 11, she's like, "Mommy, you're not like the other mothers." I'm like, I know. I just think we have some different issues, and also you're often very isolated. You're kind of lonely at the top if you are a senior
right?
leader, like a number of us are. And so I just think there's also some interesting things that happen where, I've actually had people say to me, no one ever asked me to invest in venture. They're like, I literally haven't been invited. I've been around VCs. I've made a whole bunch of money with, companies going public, and no one's ever paid any attention to me as a potential investor. And I think that's both a problem and an opportunity for us in today's age.
So you think women reach that stage, and there's a lot of like, how do I do that? Because it kind of goes
100%.
back to what I said earlier. We weren't socialized to learn these things.
Well, and women, there's some interesting things. Okay, I feel like I'm not jumping to my piece, but we did some research that looks at women's investing behavior. So this is the thing we know, no surprise. You're in your 20s and 30s, you're running up the ladder, you think life's vertical, you're super busy, you don't have time to figure out new stuff. And men, their behavior, let's talk about the stock market. Women are more likely to invest in the mutual funds. They're managing their risk by diversifying their portfolio through a mutual fund, right? And that's just one example. Men are more likely to pick individual stocks, and they'll buy them and sell them. They want to get in there, but women are, they trust their advisors more, and they're more likely to invest in mutual funds. Well, kind of interesting when you think about that conceptually. Men make less money, women are better investors. So we've got this rumor that women are more risk averse, but it's not true. We take risk, but we're more risk aware. We're actually better investors. What is also true is there are some power plays in the private markets in investing in venture capital, for example. So a lot of us don't even know this, right? So most of us have had a friend that started a company and they ask us to invest in their company. And many of us do it. One, you may never get your money back, and your friendship may be hurt, but it's pretty risky investing in one, sending a decent amount of money to one company is actually not diversifying. So it's actually not really women's preferred behavior. We'd be more likely to invest in a venture fund if we knew and felt invited, because it's a group of investments. I'm a professional investor, venture investor. I will put a fund together with 10 to 30 companies. All you have to do is pick the venture fund. You don't actually have to pick the individual stocks or investments or know anything about how to do due diligence or negotiate those investments. And so I think we're all missing out on this huge opportunity. It's also tied in with this other, if you think about how is wealth created in the United States, we all think, well, I start saving when I'm young. You start in your 20s, and everybody says you're gonna be a millionaire if you do $20 a month or some silliness from your 20s. And that's true, that it compound interest and the stock market grows over time. But the biggest wealth in our country is through people selling their companies or investing in companies that sell. Like we just helped a woman founder who sold her company after 18 months and made $22 million. So that's real wealth. And so I think for a lot of us, we're not playing in the venture space. We're not making the money as investors, but only 20 women in the history of the United States have ever founded a company that went public on the New York Stock Exchange. We also are not getting fueled to make big money or have those big positional leadership roles that happen as a result of having a public offering. So we have some broken rungs, but it's the first generation of us who can actually change that by investing in venture. And women like the women from Aspirant that we're talking to today, these trusted advisors, as women, we also found in our research, we're more likely to actually listen to our advisors. So there's a big opportunity also for investment advisors to really think about how women are making decisions and investing and what they need to hear from us.
There's also studies that show that women, when they're working with their advisors, ask more questions and want to know the context more. So with your organization, what's so wonderful about your organization is supporting, because when you're an entrepreneur, you started a business, you have created something of impact. You have created a community because you created a business, you're supporting people, etc. So your work is furthering the impact of that community around women that have started businesses.
Well, we all come together and do it together. I mean, I think that's, I said earlier, this middle essence, one of the things is, we're happy if we're doing things together and having an impact. Well, let's all come together and create fuel the change we want to see in the future in the world, with more, more power, wealth, and influence being generated, more women CEOs, more women in the C-suite. Women founders hire 6 times more women. They're more likely to put them in leadership positions. So for all of us, there's an opportunity here that we've never had before to really, and it'll make us happier, is really what we've experienced. So
I think that's also
we made major change, as a result.
I wanted to just add to that, because I don't know the whole demographic or financial economics of the women on the panel today. So I just want to say, like, whether you're in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s, I mean, you may not be at this level yet of ascertaining that you bring your company public or investing. But what I want to express is that being present to your own income right now is probably really critical. And again, I know that there was a few women that were just having children and they were going to be joining this panel. And the question for you when you're starting out and you have your career and you have your family and you have your kids, how maybe your next objective is, how the hell am I going to get my kids to college? And I'm going to share something that I did when my kids were born, is that all the money that I was spending on diapers and formula, etc., which was $150 or $300 or $500 a month, I just assumed, like, I wanted to get them out of the diapers and off formula really quickly so I could start their college funding. And so what I found, because I was so conscious of this, I didn't want to get to my 40s or 50s and then say, oh my gosh, I forgot to save for my kids, and now I'm going to have to delay my own retirement account or retirement plan. Is that it was a lot easier when my kids were going through high school and I knew that their college was going to be taken care of. Then my husband and I could just focus on us and what we wanted to accomplish. So again, I don't know the economics of everyone on this panel, but I want to again reiterate the power of choice and planning. Pay yourself first. I think that, remember that. And again, I didn't articulate this when I got on the phone on the video, but I was the CEO of a firm that merged into Aspirant, and I very much visualized a lot of that change. I visualized that pivot where I wanted to merge my company, get to a larger organization, have an impact. And what we don't do, again, as women, is that we don't visualize what that next rung will be. And I'm going to go back. The power is the power in your mind. The power is the power in your focus. The power is in the plan. And so I just want to sort of leave you all with a little bit of that again.
I mean, that goes back to one of the core reasons we're having this webinar with Businesswomen is we know how to build a plan for the business, and we know how to do check-ins and execute and implement. But when it comes back to ourselves, that's where we have to pause and sort of turn the mirror back and have some self-care moments.
I want to tie in a little bit into what Helen was bringing out on planning.
Okay.
One of the things that we discovered in putting together this book, and we kind of loosely formulated it into 3 stages of professional life that us women go through. One is in the thick of it. So that's when you are hard charging in the middle of your career. Another is working on your own terms. You could still be in the thick of it, but you also may not be. So there's a whole different mindset that goes along with that. And then the third aspect, we started out thinking about this word called retirement, but that word it's got too much baggage and it doesn't really apply anymore. You might be at some stage out of the paid work world. And I'll come back to Helen's talking about the rungs on the ladder. The rungs on the ladder are not linear. The ladder isn't just a single ladder that goes straight in one direction. There are other ladders that branch off, and there are an amazing number of things that happen to our life that create these transitions. It opens up choices and opportunities. Some of them maybe don't feel like they're good ones, like some of the external destabilizing events that are undesirable, like, COVID, death, natural disasters, accidents. A lot of those very negative things are the before and after events in our life. But other external events that open up choice and also create community are very positive. You get a promotion, you get married, you have a new baby, you have a grandchild, a new home. Maybe it's a big trip of a lifetime. Again, those are before and after events. But utilizing these things that come both for us as professional women, as well as part of our personal lives are important. There are external ones. I had a friend who lost her home in one of the California wildfires. She was devastated, lost everything. But if you fast forward out of it, I could tell you a whole wonderful story about where her life transformed into. Was it painful? Oh, absolutely. But then there's other things internally that tie into your planning and your motivations. And those are the internal things. That's where you're asking yourself the questions. I need to strengthen something. Something doesn't seem right. I need to re-level things. This is where you've got to encourage your own personal investigation as part of your planning. Don't leave yourself out of your planning. Am I satisfied with where I am? Tying back into Julie, talking about risk awareness, your risk aversion or your risk comfort will change, and it goes back and forth. You'll be surprised. You think, oh, well, when I'm in, I'll use that evil word, retirement, I will not want to take risks. Tell the truth, that may not be correct, so don't always listen to what others think is the common wisdom. But I want to throw one more thing in here into the change, and that is influencers. And this is your community, and they're really important. There are your peers, your friends, social media. These are people that are supportive, hopefully care about you. Truth is, there's also bad side that you got to be aware of, even in friends, family, and social media. They may not be telling you what you want to hear. They're telling you what they think, and they could have a hidden agenda. Maybe their knowledge is limited, but they're trying to come across as though the all-powerful knowing. So you even treat your influencer, your important influencers, and understand good and bad. And this is where I'm tying back all the way back around to bringing in those trusted advisors, guides, mentors, coaches in any form and in your life, and especially with money. They come with some expertise. They come with experience. That's why they're called trusted advisors or coaches. Also, pick them out and with objectives in mind that you're trying to accomplish something.
Julie, do you find one of the great benefits of the work you're doing is that community? Because I would imagine you're bringing a group of women together that have not invested yet, or it's fairly new to them. Isn't it extremely helpful that they are with peers and people in the community that's helping encourage them?
Well, yeah, of course it is. I mean, what's kind of interesting is our network is women who are top executive leaders, right? So what's happened is, sure, they've done they invested at their company, you know, through all the options that were at their company. But you know, are they getting the kind of advice where they really are taking control, that they're, like you said in the beginning, about you're aligning it with your values? Like, that's a whole other step. And I think a lot of us, we're so busy running up the corporate ladder and raising families and all those other things that you do in your 20s and 30s and early 40s, that there comes a moment you're like, wait, I want to actually take control of this. I want to have my voice heard. There's a question in the chat about women of color. This is the thing, like, who do you trust is going to listen to you and give you real advice and get your life situation? Finding an advisor that absolutely, you know, can meet you where you're at, I think is super important. And it's not lost on me that we're all white women sitting here talking. I think it's just really critical that we think about the intersectionality. You know, different cultures have different, you know, how are you taking care of your family members? Like, literally, my husband's an immigrant from Mexico. We have a line item in our budget for taking care of our family. You know, that is part of what we have to plan for. So that's a different thing than what my sister, who married a white guy, has as her family situation. So I think, you know, finding that trusted person, but then when you're in community with other women, you know, I just think we have a different experience in this environment, where with other people, and they're like, have you considered, like, we start to hear it differently than if we get it from one advisor, if we read something, right? Or if we say, hey, you know, let's all think about how we're going to change the issues around climate. Let's invest in, you know, climate related things. You know, how do you really, like, get people around you that can help you expand your thinking, but in a way that's not that's not going to take you into a down the road that is not good for you, right? We find it in our venture firm that spun out of How Women Lead, which is our network, that you know, women weren't invited in to invest in venture in other times. It's a trusted network of women, and they're like, well, it's a modest amount of money. I'll do it with other women that I admire. And as a result, without having to outlay a lot of time or money, they'll cross the line, and then all of a sudden they have confidence. So 30% of the women who invested for the very first time in venture with us, a year later, are investing in 2 and 3 other venture firms. They just needed, like, that, let's just get started on something that's low risk, easy to say yes to, and other women around me who make me feel like I'm making a good decision because we're doing it together. I also, you know, we've talked about investing along with your values. I just want to underscore, money's power. You have power and influence with your money. It's not always you know, you got to make sure you got enough that you're doing something that's responsible, but don't forget, it is an entry card to a lot of things. So the very first board seat I got, I invested $25,000 in this company. And I said, I want a seat on your board. And she said, well, I'll probably have to kick you off when the big VCs come on. And I wasn't a VC at the time. I was just doing my own private investing. I was like, that's fine. And 4 years later, I'm still on that board. So, you know, I think, don't forget that you can wield some influence and use this as a door opener that might actually help you build your career and make more money over time.
See, that is so important. I mean, again, that's partly why we formed WBC, is for that community, and all the great movements in history supported each other. And as women, it just sounds very amorphous to be women and be supporting each other, but you have your business network, and you have the kinds of networks that you have created, Julie, where we can purposefully, intentionally enter into that kind of community, that kind of support. Same thing with an intentional sit down with your advisor and walking through what that plan is for your kind of personal family community, so to speak. Helen,
yeah, Julie, I mean, what I like about that story, and I think we have to advocate for ourselves. And I think I saw in the chat that someone said it's like finding a doctor. Well, if your spouse or someone's in the hospital, you have to advocate for them in the hospital. You also have to advocate for yourself for salary increases, positions on boards, negotiation, and we tend not to. As women, we don't advocate for well, maybe you get the job offer and someone says it's X dollars, and we need to have the confidence to go back and say, no, I'm worth more. I'm worth more. I have the experience, and push that. So I just want to, again, step into the fear that you may have that you're not good enough, or you have the experience. And most women, they apply for jobs after they're accomplished versus like learning. And I think, Lynn, you've talked about that at one of our meetings.
The
is
studies show that
Yeah.
women will not apply unless there's 10 competencies.
Right.
needed. They feel like they have to have 9 or 10.
So
Men will apply at 4 to 6 and give it a shot.
with both of those examples, I want to make sure that though that we dig in, because that's the headline news. Actually, if you dig into it, there's a reason, and it is we're wise. If you ask for a raise, you can be seen as too aggressive. There's all women who are not showing gratitude or ask for too much, they're actually dinged. And so it's not as easy as saying, just ask for more money. Like, you actually have to do it the right way. There's a
Right.
line you have to walk. There's actually stuff out there about like, how do you ask for more money? And similarly, literally, men, and therefore the culture, so women buy into this, of who's hiring people for jobs. We actually think we hire men for their potential. We hire women for what they've done. And so it's not just women's failings that they aren't applying for jobs when they don't tick off all of the items. We know that it's not going to get us where we want to go if we're not, so yes, we shouldn't buy into that cultural narrative, but we have to know that it's not our fault. It's
That's
not
right.
women. It's us.
What's
with our
interesting?
genetics.
I tend to tie this back to the 3 things where Lynn started with us: confidence, community, and choice. And for me, the one word that kind of empowers it is empowerment, because there are multiple levels of that. And what I hear tied together in this conversation is, first of all, empower yourself. Anything is possible. You have to be committed, have the desire, be willing to invest in yourself. The other is that you're not alone. The community, be empowered by others, your guides, your mentors. You can see yourself from the inside out, but others, your trusted advisors, see you from the outside, but also see what's around you, which sometimes you can't see.
That's really good.
Another thing of empowerment is empowering your own growth, which is celebrating your own accomplishments and making them small. Sometimes people they have a big goal. Well, good. You do want to climb the mountain, but you got to start by, it's that old 1 step at a time thing. And I've got kind of 2 more thoughts rattling around, and then I'll stop talking, but be empowered also by the system. There's some interesting things out there today that can help work for us. So understand what they are, stand up for your rights and claim them. Sometimes it could be something simple, like my financial advisor. Here's a little simple thing. I didn't know there was such a thing called spousal benefits when you retire, and I wanted to save my Social Security till I was 70. Okay, so that's just a little thing in the system, but there are also big things. And kind of my final point on empowerment is, when you're in the right space, is give back and empower others.
Mhm.
So in your area of expertise, be your own guide or mentor and coach for others when you can do that.
That's
Nice.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Janet, How Women Lead, we created a credo because we were like, the culture is not great for women, apropos what we just talked about. So we asked women to literally do the Girl Scouts pledge when they're with us, be fierce advocates for each other, none of that mean girl stuff, reinforce her voice, like when she speaks up and isn't being heard, say yes to making introductions, like literally take time and make introductions for women, and not worry that somehow, that there's scarcity, or they're going to embarrass us, or we'll make the mistake with making a recommendation, because men do it. And then finally, be unabashedly visible, like take up space, toot your horn, and celebrate each other, and ask other people to do the same with you. So I think all of us, we're on a journey, and the culture's not set us up well, but we have a moment where we can actually say, I want to be different. I'm going to invite other people to be different alongside me.
I love that. And man, is that true about the network as well? Because again, I watched men just make introductions to each other and it comes with ease. And, you know, I reached a certain stage in my career where I've joined groups and it's like, absolutely people go out of your way. And I still get a little, oh, I'm asking for a favor. People are like, of course, happy to help, you know, and that's exactly the way we need to be. It goes back to that community. Again, all successful movements, you know, achieve their vision by supporting each other. That's how they got there. I also want to go back to something around personal. So one thing that transformed my life that is kind of an intersection between business and personal financial planning are my values. I actually sat down and did an exercise, and I'm happy to share it with anyone. You're welcome to reach out to me, where you pick like 15, 10, 3 core values. They're on my wall. They really matter to me. You know, things like stability, freedom, and self-respect. Those are my 3 core values. And when I have to make personal, financial, life, business, job decisions, I will stop and say, wait a minute, you know, what, am I uncomfortable? Am I okay? I'm gonna balance that decision against my value. Just like a great company, like Aspirant, by the way, we have core values. When we have to make complex business choices, we will go back to our values. What aligns with our value? And then I think that leads to impact, a personal impact, because I know, you know, how it is and where it is I want to communicate those values. So I don't know if it may sound a little amorphous, but it has literally been a guiding parameter in my life.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is, without core values being acted upon, you can be very busy, but you're going through the motions and your heart may not be in it. You've got to reconnect with that, whether it's financial and in your investing, or where you're working, or what you're doing with your unpaid time. Boy, having those basic principles, those ethics, those causes, those basic rights that are critical and important to you, keep them front and center.
There are a couple, speaking of connecting that to wealth, there are a couple of things that that I want you guys to know about. One is there's, you know, all the leading financial folks in the country and the world are saying all the billions of the next IPOs, the unicorns, all the money is going to be made in climate solutions. We've been software as a service, SaaS has been how a lot of money's been made over the last 20 years. Now it's going to be the age of climate. So the head of BlackRock, who's the biggest asset management firm in the country, in the world, just came out with that as a statement. So you can live your values, the other kinds of values, like, you know, it's connecting that to that kind of thing, and make a lot of money these days. Investing in companies founded by women. You'll make more money. And Morgan Stanley did a big research project, said you can make $4.4 trillion that is being left on the table as investors by investing in companies founded by women. So, you know, I think that there's some interesting things where you can connect all of those dots. You know, Lynn, one of the things that was in the Q&A is, how do you find the right kind of advisor for you? Helen, you were talking earlier about a fiduciary. Do you want to sort of double click on that? Like, what does that mean? And how do you find someone who's not trying to get your money so they can invest it with their own products? What does that look like?
Yeah, I want to go back to one of your comments about Morgan Stanley and about women. I would ask that, you know, do they have enough women on their board where, and I'm not plugging at Aspirant, but Aspirant has a lot of women in the C-suite, which is unusual, but we do. And we are fiduciaries. And the fiduciary is that it's almost like your Hippocratic oath, is that you are, you're obligated to provide advice, recommendations that is truly in the best interest of that client, of that person, versus advocating or being paid by a company for a product. So it's where your allegiance lives, and a fiduciary is your allegiance lives to the betterment of that relationship, that client. So that's really top of the line.
Okay, so I'll dumb it down,
Okay.
it's, and that is a fiduciary doesn't sell stuff. They're not there to sell you stuff. Because, like, let's get real. If they're selling stuff, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, you know what? It's a duck. And the thing is a fiduciary is one that sits back and goes, ducks
I don't think so.
belong. Ducks don't belong in your pond. I'm sorry, they don't. You need a swan in your pond, because they sit back and they go, yeah, I like ducks. They belong in somebody else's pond, but not in your pond. So, okay, sorry
I
to
like
dumb
that,
it
Jen.
down.
Yeah, no, it's good. And actually, if you want to Google, Helen said registered investment advisor, RIAs. It's kind of a new industry as of last 20, 30 years. That is where you will, in general, find that independent advisor. That's exactly
And so
right.
there was a question about, with Aspirant, for example, do you also give advice on tax impacts and tax optimization? Like, where do you start and where do you leave off?
Yeah, the question was basically how many advisors do I need? And she was specifically also asking, can a kind of a regular tax person give me this advice? And the answer is generally no. So it kind of depends on your team. How big a team do you need? Basically, it depends on your level of wealth as well. And I personally think one of those, you have to have a tax accountant if you're don't do your taxes, number one. But for me, you got to get the wealth advisor, because that's the one, again, that will help you craft all of it and have
to
connections
wealth
to
advisor,
lawyers.
some people freak out and go, wealth. Well, I'm not wealthy. Well, wealth is just money. That's just a nice word for money. And what you want your money to do is be a tool so that you can become wealthy, not by anybody else's standards, but by your own. And that's why you want that wealth advisor.
That's right. And I want to remind folks again, when you get your thank you email, we are offering a complimentary conversation to help you with some of these questions. You'll be welcome to ask any number of questions. And then I want to ask for takeaways, but I do want to point out the original Old English language meaning of the word wealth is health. Back to heart and impact.
That's great, Lynn.
Isn't that beautiful? Yeah.
Mhm.
So for the three of you, since we've got about 3 minutes, like if you had to leave us with one special nugget from your seat, from your area of expertise, from your heart, what would that one special nugget be? Janet, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, I was having
Sorry.
trouble picking through my little, if I talk fast. So, build a personal management formula for yourself. So we heard a lot about planning and things like that. Build that for yourself. And you can be either an architect and have it really well designed, or you can be a gardener, plant it and see where it grows, but have that plan. My second thing is life is life. And you can't control everything. And every morning when you look in the mirror, God gave you hair to remind you that you cannot control everything, just so you know that. And most important, don't disappoint yourself. So that was 3 things. I'm sorry, Lynn, but
That's all right. Don't disappoint yourself. That's nice. Julie.
Think about the connection between power, wealth, and influence, and how you can use your wealth, and wealth with a lowercase w. We all have something. Use it to reinforce the values that are important to you, to get big, operational opportunities, whether it's a board seat or, when you say to someone, I invest in venture, all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, you're powerful. Would you come to my party? Would you go on my board? Would you come to, will you speak at my group? Like, seriously, use your power, wealth, and influence to get you where you want to go, and have fun while you're doing it with other women.
Nice. And Helen, why don't you
I'm
take
gonna
us out?
Yeah, I'm going to say, be good to yourself. Write it down, revise it, and live it. Live it now. Don't just keep waiting for the future. Your life's going. So.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Thank you all. And we're getting a lot of lovely comments in the chat. Thank you folks for that.
Job, Lynn.
Comments about impact and
facilitating.
heart. Really nice, valuable advice, great insights, amazing synergy. Thank you, folks. So on that note, invest in yourself. You are your best investment, and let us know how we can help. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lots more wonderful things coming through the chat. Very nice.
You're all good enough. You're all enough.
That's right.
That's the bit, we should have reinforced that every minute, Helen.
Right.
That is that is sort of the business of the day. You're enough,
That's
you
right.
know enough, you got enough.
That's
Now what
it.
are we gonna do with it? Mhm.
Very nice. All right. Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.